So the details of Bernie Sanders' reconciliation bill, the human infrastructure bill as it's being called, have been unveiled. So Chuck, go ahead and throw that up on the screen for me and I'll read it for these fine people. So Bernie Sanders' budget includes child tax benefit, universal pre-K, paid family and medical leave, tuition-free community college. By the way, so far this is amazing. Lower prescription drug costs, dental, hearing, vision, Medicare expansion, housing, home care, major climate money, immigration, lower Medicare age, Obamacare expansion, increasing physical supply. That's the one I don't know what that means. Too many climate clean energy plans to summarize here. And they say they're going to get the new revenue from beefed up IRS tax enforcement, hopefully on the wealthy, taxing the rich, taxing corporations, fees on polluters, Medicare negotiations. So the only thing, guys, that's missing from this, and you can come back to me there, Chuck, thanks. The only thing that's missing here, no $15 minimum wage, which Schumer had originally said we're going to throw this in this bill. That didn't make the cut. And the Democrats want to bring back that terrible, what's called the SALT tax deduction, the state and local tax deduction, which really is just a tax break for the wealthy liberals in the Northeast. That's what that is, where you get to deduct whatever you pay in state taxes and whatever you pay in local taxes, you get to deduct from your federal taxes. So those are the only two parts. The $15 minimum wage is not in there, and they want to bring back the SALT deduction. Those are only really bad parts of it. Everything else, got to keep it real with you guys, it looks really good. Now, don't get too excited because all we have as of right now is the reconciliation procedural process has begun, and that has passed in the Senate. But what that means is now it's going to go into roughly 372 different committees, and they're going to take an axe to it, and they're going to take a hatchet to it, and you're going to have Manchin and Sinema and the 7 or 8 Democrats who are complete corporate right-wing sellouts. They're going to try to knock out a bunch of the good provisions. Now, my guess is a lot of climate change stuff, gone. The immigration stuff, gone. A lot of the pay-fors like raising taxes on corporations over a certain line or raising taxes on individuals over a certain line, gone. So it is going to get whittled down, and I need everybody to understand that. But this bill is not a bad starting position, not a bad place to negotiate from. Again, the $15 minimum wage should be in there. They didn't put it in there. Also, just so you know, the parliamentarian is going to have her way with this bill, which means other things that she's going to say, I have decreed, I have ruled that this cannot be in the bill. And the Democrats will go along with it, even though the parliamentarian doesn't really have that authority. It's an advisory opinion that you can override or you could fire the parliamentarian. But the Democrats will go along with whatever the parliamentarian says. So the $3.5 trillion number is not going to stay. And Manchin has come out and, just like I was saying previously, he voted to procedurally move along the $3.5 trillion bill, but he released a statement saying, I'm not going to be for this in its final form. I think we need to be fiscally responsible, which means cut a lot of this stuff out. So now comes the hard part. The hard part is House progressives have drawn a red line, and they say, we'll take up your bipartisan bill, which just passed the Senate, when you guys also send us the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, Bernie's bill. They've drawn a hard line. I love that they've drawn a hard line. It means that they're willing to fight. But now that they've drawn that hard line, they have a seat at the table, and they're going to be in on the negotiations. So the question is, can we craft a bill that's bare minimum acceptable? Now, in my opinion, the final infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, is actually pretty good. So I would have no problem voting for that final bipartisan bill if, again, we can get over $2 trillion for the human infrastructure bill. And, you can get a lot of the provisions that we saw in Bernie's bill there. Hey, Chuck, you mind throwing that up again? I just want to run through some of it because I find this stuff is so important. And there you go. So if you can get a bill that's $2 trillion or more and it keeps a lot of this stuff like the child tax benefit, universal pre-K, paid and family medical leave, tuition-free community college, lower prescription drug costs, dental, hearing, vision, Medicare expansion. A lot of this stuff is so important. Home care. Like, I will take a deal that's $2 trillion or more on it. If you drop under that $2 trillion number, I got to draw the red line and I got to be willing to tank the whole thing. But as of right now, we're in an interesting position. I do think that this legislation that we're talking about, even though it's not perfect, it is probably the single best piece of legislation since the New Deal. I need you to stop and think about that. Maybe you could argue Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society, but I would probably say the New Deal, because a lot of these things are game changers. So it's all about the fight now. It's all about the negotiation now. And you just have to hope that both the congressional progressives can stand strong, but also Joe Biden finds a conscience and finds a spine and is willing to more align with the House progressives against Manchin and Sinema and the conservative Democrats. If history's any judge, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, bringer of bad news, whatever the saying is, if history's any judge, Biden's not going to do that, and he's going to more side with Manchin and Sinema. But God, you just hope that that's not the case. You just fingers crossed, for the love of God. Let's get this thing across the finish line. $2 trillion or more in a human infrastructure bill, along with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We're getting close, but I'll give you guys the updates as we move along here. And all I could say is I'm watching this, holding my breath, just like all of you are. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.